Another wildlife-rich option in Akureyri is the tour called North Iceland's Natural Treasures. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot more about that in the port talk on Akureyri, which should also be available here on your in-suite TVs. In some ways, it's the northern answer to the Golden Circle tour that lots of you did from Reykjavik. Similar in concept, but I promise you it visits very different places. And actually, if you manage both those trips, the Golden Circle and the Northern Treasures trip, then you really will have seen the very best of Iceland. It takes you across to a place called Lake Mývatn, that I've highlighted there on the bottom right of that Google Earth image, past a spectacular waterfall at a place called Goðafoss. The horseshoe-shaped Goðafoss, the waterfall of the gods to translate, is magnificent, especially if it's in full flow like this. And if you stop to photograph it, kind of have a look at your feet as you walk across to photograph the waterfall, and you might spot one of my favourite plants, Iceland's national flower, called mountain avens. Then the trip continues on to Lake Mývatn, a fascinating area geomorphologically, sitting right on the tear zone, where the mid-Atlantic ridge is splitting apart. Europe is going one way, or the European plate is going one way, the North American tectonic plate is going another way, and Iceland forms in the middle. Lake Mývatn has an amazing variety of volcanic landscape features, like these things called pseudocraters, and I'm sure you'll hear about those in talks from my colleague Tony Waltham, Tony Hot Rocks Waltham, as I like to call him. But Lake Mývatn is also recognised as one of the best bird-watching areas in Iceland. These little shorebirds, called red-necked phalarope, are amongst the most conspicuous species at Mývatn, displaying in every pond there. Those are the best photographs I managed to get of them on Mývatn itself, but sometimes the tour also stops briefly at this lake called, this river called the River Loxa, which drains out of the lake. And there you can get spectacular close views of some of the wildlife. So there's a fantastic close shot that I managed to get of a spectacular male phalarope. Iceland is one of the main breeding sites for the species in the world. About 50 to 100,000 pairs of red-necked phalarope breed around Iceland. And incidentally, that male isn't swimming, he's up to his waist in the water. He's paddling with his legs along the bed of the river. But this is the most characteristic bird of Lake Mývatn and the River Loxa that flows out from it. This is called Barrow's goldeneye, a male on the left and a female on the right. Yes, I've got that the right way around. I don't have time to go into all its features today, but I'm sure it will inspire any birders amongst you that are watching this, because Iceland is the only place where it breeds in Europe, mainly actually around Lake Mývatn, where it is entirely dependent on the ecological system of the lake area. Otherwise, it's entirely an American species, so some of you may know it from home. And a special mention also for this, the harlequin duck, which can be found all over Iceland, but are particularly common actually in that River Loxa that I mentioned. During the summer, they live only on fairly fast-flowing rivers, so you won't see them on Lake Mývatn itself, only where there's fast-moving water in the river out from the lake. That one there in the photograph is a male, and there's a pair of them with the female in the foreground there. Watching them feed is amazing because they dive into the strongest rapids and they catch their favoured food, which are the larvae of a tiny little insect that I suspect you will definitely see on your Northern Treasures tour, and which I need to tell you a little bit about. Have a look at this photograph. It looks like it's a rather dirty image if you can see it closely enough. It looks like there's lots of muck over an old photographic slide or something. And there's a reason why it looks like that. lots and lots of reasons to be precise. Because Mývatn means midge lake, and there are maddening swarms of tiny little insects, flying insects called midges. They're just an absolute feature of the area. Just look at that. Driving along in the bus, and little mini tornadoes of these midges just waiting for visitors to arrive. Can you see them all over the foreground in that photograph? Look at the jackets of these two people, and you'll see all the midges in front of them. And look at them on this post. They're absolutely everywhere. And I've noticed that even our tour guides haven't found a way to cope with them. This is what you call the Mývatn wave. It's all you can do. There's a midge that's landed on the bus window. Now, the good news is that these skinny ones, the midges that are there in their millions, do not bite. They're essentially harmless. Except that they seem to like to get into your eyes and into your mouth and up your nose. So actually, even if we didn't have COVID, I'd be recommending face masks as a good thing to have if you're visiting Lake Mývatn, to try and keep these myriads of midges out of your nose and out of your mouth. So something you might like to remember. There are also fatter, chunkier flies there, which the locals call, believe it or not, they pronounce that bite me. And the bite me is a kind of black fly, and it does bite. But it gives its presence away by a loud buzz. So just listen out for that buzz, and if you hear that, be a little more cautious. It is a place where I think you might want to take bug spray with you if you are getting out to go for a walk at Lake Mývatn at all. But actually, I think it's probably a bit early for the bite me's to be around, hopefully a bit early for the huge hordes of midges to be around as well. Quite why all these midges are so abundant at Mývatn is a bit of a mystery. It probably relates partly to nutrient-rich spring water that comes up through all the volcanic rocks around the lake. But they are absolutely key to the richness of Lake Mývatn, to all the bird life that you'll enjoy seeing when you're there. The brown trout in the water and the various ducks and water birds, all of them feed on the young, the larvae of these midges that live in the water of the lake. And the whole lake pulses with life because of these midges. So they might be a little bit of a distraction, but they are fulfilling a really important function at Lake Mývatn.